The IDF has issued a statement saying that they have worked with the World Central Kitchen in response to this. They've got the highest levels looking into what has gone wrong in this tragic circumstance. Mistakes like this in a war zone, tragically, they happen, but very rare that aid workers are killed in this sort of airstrike, isn't it?
It's very, very rare. And, I've been in many countries with utterly authoritarian governments, and yet they have understood that you respect aid workers. That's why this is actually a bridge that we have crossed, which is very devastating. Look, the truth is that when you see Israeli Jews in their tens of thousands demonstrating in Jerusalem for a ceasefire, and our government and now America and church leaders that Micah Australia, we're meeting with Penny Wong on Thursday for a permanent ceasefire. The only thing that allows aid workers to do their work is a ceasefire. Aid workers working whilst there is no ceasefire, whilst the bombs are falling, we seem to agree that the IDF knows it has made a tragic mistake. There needs to be a ceasefire for humanitarian aid to get in, for aid workers to be protected, delivering aid to people who are starving. That's, I think, the only good thing, if anything good can come out of this terrible tragedy now, of a very courageous Australian doing his or her job who've lost their life.
You have worked with countless young Australians, as you've alluded to, over your long career in the most difficult of circumstances. Give our viewers a sense of the sort of individual we're talking about. We can't name the person yet for obvious reasons. We have to await formal confirmation, and it's not for us to breach that. But just give us a broad sense of the sort of characteristic, the individual, the bravery that you're talking about here.
Oh, look, I was always in awe of all humanitarian workers, my own staff included. I sometimes in the World Vision office in Melbourne was putting out OHS requirements as you walk up the stairs at World Vision, hold the rail, and then sending my workers into Afghanistan, into Syria, into Gaza. It's a special type of person who actually says, I'm going to serve others in this way. I'm going to risk my own life to actually protect the innocent, particularly women and children. I mean, the level of courage to do that is so extraordinary. Most of us say when DFAT says get out, we're fleeing, we're terrified, we're worried, rightly, for ourselves. For someone to go in, to say I'm actually putting my life on the line, this is heroism and courage that is extraordinary.
And with the Australian were killed other Westerners, there is a sense now that, and you've alluded to this as well, but others have been reiterating the call for a ceasefire. Do you think that this will be overwhelming now for the Israeli authorities to accede to one, even though Hamas, of course, that terrorist group, continues to hold dozens of hostages?
Look, we're all asking, when is there going to be a tipping point? We know that Israel has a right to defend itself, but to actually call for a ceasefire is not denying Israel's right to defend itself, let alone calling for a ceasefire is somehow anti-Semitic. We know that we actually have to have a ceasefire. The world knows this because people are starving. Innocent lives, far too many have been lost. Hostages need to be released. And a ceasefire is certainly the only precondition also for that.
When you look at the need for food and aid to get into that besieged enclave, it really was dependent in many respects in recent days on groups like the World Central Kitchen charity, because UNRWA had been defunded by many governments, including our own. The funding had been stopped. These other independent and private charities had to pick up the slack.
That's exactly right. And World Vision years back was working in Gaza, but can't work there now. And there's always been difficulties because Hamas do run Gaza. And if you're going to get to people who aren't Hamas supporters but need aid, you actually have to take risks of, as UNRWA has shown, of maybe infiltration. But The greater risk is letting innocent people die, letting the starvation of children go on while the world watches. That is a far greater risk. UNRWA was providing 50% of the relief there. And we know in North Gaza, and we think this is where this strike that has killed an Australian aid worker and a British and a Polish aid worker has occurred. Look, we need to see the Israelis allowing aid in there. We need to see an opportunity to say 6 months on, this many lives lost, these hostages still not released, a ceasefire is the most creative and sane option for us to actually respond in a humanitarian way.
Tim Costello, on a very sad day, I appreciate your time as always. Thanks so much.